Today we will be discussing several issues concerning food availability. We would first like to define some terms that we will be examining.
3 seconds. Did you know that a person has just died of hunger? And the odds of that being a kid is 3/4. Imagine that, a person dropping dead almost every 4 seconds because of hunger.
The world we live in is cruel. Some are luckier than others. Malnutrition is lack or deficiency of some or all nutritional essential elements for humans' diet. There are two types of malnutrition: protein energy malnutrition and micronutrient deficiency.
Protein energy malnutrition is the lack of enough protein and food that provides energy for human health to function properly. This is more common in undeveloped countries and is recognized as an issue of world hunger.
Micronutrient deficiency, the deficiency of vitamins and minerals. This is less of an issue in comparison to protein energy malnutrition. Some might think of malnutrition as a skinny African baby. However, malnutrition also represents this obese people. Next, we would like to touch on hunger.
Hunger is the state of discomfort due to hunger. It also can simply be recognized as the desire of food. There are also two types of hunger: periodic hunger and chronic hunger.
Periodic hunger, temporary hunger, is hunger caused by disruption of food supplies due to unusual events. This is usually temporary.
Chronic hunger, long-term hunger caused by endemic problems of availability and access rather than by temporary. For example, Kenya or India because of their poor economic conditions. This is usually permanent or long-lasting. In the developing world, more than 1.4 billion people currently live below the poverty line, earning less than $1.25 per day.
This year, nearly 9 million children younger than 5 will die needlessly, more than half from hunger-related causes.
Many of you have heard words like hunger and obesity in the news these days. Famine, the lack of difficulty in accessing food resources in a region.
Obesity, fat overload. This happens due to intake of too many calories. This is a developing issue among developed countries. This condition is preventable.
But we have to ask ourselves, what causes hunger? Poverty. Poor people lack the resources needed in order to grow or buy food.
Another reason is racism. Lack of access to education, money, and employment happens because of racial or ethnic discrimination.
War. War disrupts agricultural production and wastes the money that could go towards funding education and preventing a healthy lifestyle instead of spending money on war equipment.
Environmental overload. Overconsumption of fatty foods by developed countries along with population growth in developing countries, straining the access for poor people to feed themselves.
Finally, lack of power. Hunger is caused by powerlessness. Those who don't have power to protect their own interests are hungry, mainly affecting children.
The effect of hunger can be minor or can be major, and sometimes even life-threatening.
Vulnerability to common illnesses. Malnourished people lack the strength to combat illnesses like diarrhea, sore throats, etc.
Increased risk of infection. A malnourished child has a weakened immune system, making the child more vulnerable to infection.
It also prevents development. Hunger and malnutrition deprives children of the essential proteins for growth. Globally, it is estimated that nearly 226 million children are shorter than they should be due to the lack of nutrients.
Impediments to economic growth. Studies have shown that underweight children will probably spend fewer years in school. This impacts their education in the future and their financial status to maintain a home.
High infant mortality rate. Malnourished women are more likely to be sick, have smaller babies, and die earlier. resulting in high levels of infant mortality in areas where chronic hunger is a problem.
Famine. Famine is most notably present in undeveloped countries. On October 11, 2010, it was reported that the number of malnourished people in the world exceeded more than 1 billion people.
Famine strikes sub-Saharan countries the hardest.
Immunization, improved public health infrastructure, general food rations, and supplementary feeding for vulnerable children has provided temporary mitigation to the mortality impacts of famines, while leaving their economic consequences unchanged and not solving the underlying issues of too large a regional population relative to food production capability in July 2005. The Famine Early Warning Systems Network labeled Niger with emergency status, as well as Chad, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Somalia, and Zimbabwe.
In July 2006, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization warned that 11 million people in Somalia, Kenya, Djibouti, and Ethiopia were in danger of starvation due to the combination of severe drought and military conflict. In 2006, the most serious humanitarian crisis in Africa was in Sudan's region Darfur. The Guardian reports that in 2007, approximately 40% of the world agricultural land is seriously degraded.
If current trends of soil degradation continue in Africa, the continent might be able to just feed only 25% of its population by 2025.
And the causes of famine. The causes have included natural disasters such as droughts and floods, world civil strife and population displacement, and economic failure. In spite of the fact that worldwide food production has improved in the past several decades, and that global food supplies are sufficient to feed the world's current population. An estimated 20% of people in developing countries, more than 800 million people, lack access enough food on regular and predictable basis.
Since 1980, obesity has doubled worldwide. Nearly 43 million children under the age of 5 were overweight in 2010. 65% of the world's population live in countries where overweight and obesity kill more people than underweight. This indicates the number of deaths related to diabetes is higher than underweight-related deaths.
The leading cause of obesity is, as you all may guess, increased intakes of high calorific food that are too fattening, salty, and sugary. Decreased intakes of vitamins and nutrients. Decreased in physical activities. Effects of obesity can restrict you from carrying out daily tasks. Cardiovascular diseases, mainly heart diseases and stroke, leading cause of death worldwide in 2008. Diabetes, and several cancers like endometrial, breast, and colon.